Thank you for joining us, Mark.
Well, thanks for having me. It's great.
I think we have a lot of people that will be interested in what you have to say today, because we've heard from a lot of parents of teenagers. They have a lot of concerns. Their teens are anywhere from sad, angry to depressed because they're missing, all of the big events are this time of year, the proms, the graduations. They're stuck at home. They're getting really bored. And so because of the work you do with teens, I was wondering if you could share some information about maybe a better way to handle or manage what's happening to support those teens.
Uh, sure. I think it is a big challenge. I think as I work with teens, one of the first things that we do is we look at the difference between happy and happiness. I think that in a lot of regards, teens, actually everybody, they're in this pursuit of happy. And as research studies have sort of shown, there's a big difference between happy and happiness, even sort of in our brains and the way that we take on that and the chemical processes that actually reward us and give us those feelings of happy or happiness. Happy is more of a short-term kind of a roller coaster ride, going to a party, doing that kind of stuff. That gives us a dopamine hit in our brains and is fairly short-lived. And if we chase that happy feeling too much, we can sort of go down. It's just not very fulfilling. There's no long-term sort of effects to that. You kind of get the roller coaster ride, and then you get off the roller coaster, and you're like, I need to get on the roller coaster ride again. I need to do it again. And I think that's the frustration, especially I think in the times that we're in right now with COVID and things happening. Kids are kind of on that roller coaster and they're missing, their friends in the party, and they're missing the deal, and they're looking for that next thing and they can't find it because, we're sort of isolated and there are all these restrictions on everybody. On the other side of that is happiness. And happiness is more serotonin. It's a different sort of reward system in the brain. And when you are pursuing happiness, you find things that are much more heartfelt and longer lasting, and they're deeper and more meaningful. And as science has sort of kind of gone out and researched this, they really find that happiness sort of falls in 4 buckets, right? Health is one. Healthy people find happiness and engage in happiness easier than unhealthy people do. It doesn't mean that somebody that's unhealthy can't find happiness. It's just a lot easier if I'm healthy, right? So being engaged, whether I'm in school or whether I'm working or whatever, being engaged helps me find that happiness easier. Having close relationships, whether that's close relationships with friends or family, those people find happiness much easier than people that are lonely. And people that feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves, whether that's religion or whatever it is, a project, an event, something, as long as they're part of something bigger than themselves and they feel like they're doing good in the world, those people find happiness much easier than people that don't. And I think that's the pursuit. And that's, as I would talk to young adults, those are the kinds of things that I would say that you should pursue to kind of get you to this feeling of just a place of more content and just more kind of pleasant and happy with where you're at.
Wow. Yeah. I'd say a lot of that applies to adults too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
That's great. One of the things we're hearing from, or we're asked a lot, is what to do about devices. So how long, or should we allow teens to just, because they need to socialize, just let them, run free with it? So I know you have some thoughts about that, and I was wondering if you could share it.
Yeah, it's really interesting, the whole devices thing. The other thing we talk about is I feel like there's a war on our happiness. I think that all of us are gifted with a little voice inside of us. Call that your conscience, or call that your spirit, or different people call it different things. But I think that we have this little voice inside of us that really knows what we should do next, what we should say next, what should we eat next, we have this voice inside of us. And if we take a moment and find some stillness and just maybe take a step back and just ask, should I say this or should I say that? The little voice always knows inside of you what you should say. If you're sitting down, you're eating, and you're saying, should I have a Big Mac or should I have a salad? which of these is going to be better for my body, and which, when am I going to feel better in 2 hours from now? We all know that we should eat healthy, right? So the problem with it is that there's this other very loud voice, I think, that's happening on the outside that's constantly barking at us to tell us that and compare us with others and tell us that we don't have enough, and we don't look pretty enough, and we're not handsome enough, and we're not strong enough, and we smell weird, and so we need, and it's constantly barraging us with all this information that's challenging sort of our contentment a little bit. There's a certain degree that if I'm perfectly content and I'm sitting in my yard playing ball with my dog, I'm in a great place there, right? The problem with it is, from the other side of this, nobody's making any money there. And so right now we have the phone and devices, like you said, that is this constant connection to basically to discontent. And the idea, even if you look at the multi-billion-dollar organizations that are out there, their idea is they've hired neuroscientists to kind of keep us in this state of discontent. So I feel like I'm having a bad day, and I feel like I need to go run out and buy a $400 pair of jeans because this is going to make me feel better. It's going to make me look better, and this is going to solve all my problems. And we've all been there, right? This isn't a young adult thing. This is everybody. But you run out and you buy that $400 pair of jeans. You had your eye on them for a while. You finally throw down the money and do the deal, and you get them home, and you are not 1 second closer to finding happiness than you were prior to owning the jeans. But you're constantly being barked at and compared to, and here's my friend, and look, she's over in France now, touring France, and oh, woe is me, I'm still sitting here in cold Minnesota, doing my deal. So I think there's that constant, and I think that the devices that we have allowed for this 24/7 engagement with this constant yearning for more and wanting more and feeling like we need more, where if we just take a step back and look up at the sky and take a big deep breath of fresh air, there's just something to that that's really cool and generates incredible amounts of happiness.
So true. um, I know that in addition to you have a full-time job or company now, or as an IT
Yeah,
company.
yeah.
But in addition to that, you have a nonprofit where you work with teens called the Gunnar Project. And I was wondering if you could tell our viewers and listeners what that project is.
Yeah. We lost a son. We had a son named Gunnar. He was 19 years old. He had struggled a little bit with some alcohol issues through high school. We had gotten him into some great facilities. There are some great treatment facilities around the country, and he had kind of come out on the other side of that. He was sober, doing great, getting ready to jump into college, was really had his life kind of together, and jumped on a skateboard one day and had as the neurosurgeon described it, a 1 in a million accident, fell on his head and died instantly. And so there we're left as parents, grieving parents, with having helped Gunnar get kind of to the other side of these struggles that he'd had and into a really, really cool place. And all of a sudden he's gone. And so we felt compelled to do something. And so we started the Gunnar Project. The support that we got from the community was just amazing. People continue to reach out to us. Just hundreds and hundreds of different people reached out from all across the country. And there was a consistent thread that sort of ran through everything that they were talking about. And it was this fact that Gunnar had this very unique ability to bring happiness into the lives of people who he had met, whether that was grandparents that he met once, or young children, or his friends, or just sort of everybody. And so we decided to focus the efforts of the Gunnar Project on getting out in front of young adults and talking about this sort of squishy topic of happiness, right? It's not like, again, anybody, but mostly young adults. It's not like they're going to get together in a group of 6 or 7 and open up a can of soda or something and say, hey, let's talk about happiness. Where are we at today with happiness? It's kind of like talking about love, right? It's kind of squishy and ishy, and everybody wants it, but nobody really wants to talk about it, and it's not cool. And And so we decided to just start a conversation and just get it out there in front of people. And it's interesting when you start talking about happiness and what causes happiness and what creates it and what prevents it. It's a really wild and engaging conversation. It goes in a million different directions. And once you sort of open the box and start and say it's okay to talk about it, it's a fascinating thing to talk about. So much of what we all feel like we need for happiness, we keep bottled up inside for some reason. We don't freely share that. I think it's a lot like the way that we talk about and handle love. And life is hard, in general. You don't wake up in the morning and have everything just handed to you and everything's perfect. I think especially in the days that we're facing now, I mean, every day is filled with challenges. And again, research has sort of shown that we start our days in a pretty good state. If you've had, a decent night's sleep and you ate okay, the prior day, you start at 8 o'clock in the morning or whenever you wake up, you start in a really good state. And typically people don't make terrible decisions at 8 o'clock in the morning. But as you go through your day, you get in a little bit of an argument with your sibling, or you have something over here, or something comes through from your teacher or from your boss and it nips at you a little bit. And this just sort of depletes sort of that your willpower, and it depletes your kind of happiness reserve over the course of the day. And so if you look at people and when they make poor decisions, those poor decisions are typically made at 5 o'clock in the afternoon when they're coming home from work, or at 9 o'clock in the evening when they're, headed out with some friends, and that's when those sources are depleted. If we're conscious of that, we can continually fill our bucket as life kind of takes it out of us. We can stop for a moment and look at the sky and look at the clouds and take a big deep breath of fresh air. We can walk into a coffee shop and just smell the aromas of the coffee and smell the bakery goods. And every time we do that, we sort of lift and fill our bucket up a little bit. So at the end of the day, when we just don't make those same, sorts of bad decisions. And if you're not conscious about doing that, again, mindfulness is a big part of this. If you're not mindful of the fact that life is hard and it's sort of going to suck your willpower and some of this happiness from you, if you're not conscious about filling your bucket every day, you just kind of gradually end up losing it. And by the end of the day, you're just like, I'm out, right? I just want to go home and throw my feet up on the couch and watch TV until I fall asleep, which we all know that's a terrible way to end up kind of wind up your day.
Yeah.
So bringing that to the forefront and having that, as an open conversation is a really healthy thing to do.
Wonderful. And if people wanted to know more information about the project, where should they go?
We've got a website. It's www.gunnarproject.org, and Gunnar is spelled Gunnar, like the old Swedes. So the Gunnar Project, it's just gunnarproject.org, not the Gunnar Project. So www.gunnarproject.org. I've got some information there kind of about Gunnar's life and some of the stuff that we're doing, and a little bit about the philosophy and stuff we've been talking about here today.
Wonderful. And is there a place on that website if people want to donate to your nonprofit?
There is. I appreciate you bringing that up. There is, at the bottom of every page, there's a little PayPal donation place. And as you know, if you've donated with PayPal, you can either use your PayPal account to donate, or you can do a credit card or whatever else. So, and that's found in the footer of every page.
Perfect. Well, I know I appreciate the work you do with teens. They're an underrepresented group that really can use a lot of support, especially now. So I appreciate all the good you do in the world. And I thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Best of luck to you, and hope you stay well.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, bye-bye.
Bye.